everyone, Louise here. I'm sorry for the delay in putting up the video. I had a final today and so I was racing to study for that. So now that that's over, here's the video. The topic today is the myth of race in the United States. To really understand how race plays a pretty big role in political, economic, and social life in the U.S., one really needs to understand what race is and where it came from. Race, it was a term created during the colonization, during Western imperialism and colonization of places like Africa, South America, North America, parts of Asia. It was a way to differentiate between Anglo-Saxons and everyone else, basically. I mean, at the time, even other Europeans weren't considered white, Italians weren't considered white. So it was a very, very small, a very narrow construction, and race was a synonym for species, subspecies, really, which is completely incorrect. There's one subspecies of human that is currently alive today, and everyone is that subspecies. But when people say, "Oh, what's your race?" people don't say Homo sapiens sapien, even though that's what it would be. They say, "I'm black." They say, "I'm white." They say, sometimes people relate it to their heritage or the place that they were born, so their nationality. It's really a subjective concept, and it really is based on phenotype or the way people look. So that's what race is. And once you kind of disassemble the origins of that word, you start to realize that a lot of stuff in the US that's based on race, especially when it comes to party politics, is kind of suspect. So now that we know that race is synonymous with species, it was supposed to be synonymous with species, now we need to know where it comes from. To understand where it came from, you have to go all the way back to the doctrine of discovery and the papal bulls that were created by the Pope in, let's say, between the 1200s and the 1400s. So this doctrine basically states that the white race is civilized. Therefore, it is their duty, it is the white man's burden to go forth to find uncivilized lands, to settle in them or to colonize them, to bring them into the empire of the superior race, and to tame and civilize any they would probably say subhumans, any savages that they would find. So this goes for, Indians that they found in the New World. It goes for blacks, it goes for people in India. I don't know if it goes for people in China and Japan too, because I'm pretty sure at the time, I'm definitely sure actually at the time, China was far superior and much more isolated. I don't think it really became a player in world politics until around the 1800s when Western imperialism forced it open due to the whole opium thing. But that's another video. Race was basically a concept created out of thin air with no basis whatsoever, scientific or otherwise, to justify this doctrine of discovery, this stealing of lands from peoples who had already settled it, but were defined as uncivilized and therefore unfit to take care of and to basically exploit the land for profit. So now that we know a bit about where race comes from and what race is, it's time to look to see what part race plays in the US. In the US, there are, I want to say, two main races historically. Let's say three, actually. There's three main races. There's the white race, there's the black race, and there is the Indian, Native American, American Indian, Amerindian race. So 3 races. And you get Asians and Latinos, whatever, later on. But it's mainly these 3 that are constantly battling for either recognition or to not recognize each other. I bring up those 3 races because lately I've been hearing things about people on welfare, especially, people who are in the middle class or upper middle class don't really speak out of anything but ignorance when they say these things. So they'll say, oh, it's black people that are on welfare, or it's the immigrants that are on welfare. It's not, it's just these black people, and it's just these Indians or whatever, the alcoholics, the crackheads, whatever they think the stereotype is, on welfare. That's also completely baseless. There are many, white people on welfare, just as there are many black people. There are just as many Native Americans, etc. Yes, there are more people of color on welfare, but that kind of goes back to this whole idea of race in colonization, because what race did historically was, it subjugated these classes of people even after the blacks were freed, even after American Indians stopped being used as forced indentured servants, and so on and so forth. They were still lower classes, and they did not have any access to the American dream. It was completely barred off to them. And that's not because of their race, it's not because of how they looked, it's just because there was a system in place that discriminated against a group of people based on how they looked. And so you get the socioeconomic tradition of a certain group of people, blacks, immigrants, Latinos, and Native Americans, who've got a higher percentage of that group on welfare because of the socioeconomic tradition. And I wanted to bring that up but it's my belief that especially in the US, the politics of race blind us from what the actual problem is. Now, that's not to say that race has no importance, because especially historically speaking, it has a supreme importance. And if we don't learn from that era of race, of categorizing people and trying to subjugate people based on what they look like, based on ethnocentric views of different cultures, if we don't learn from that, we're just doomed to repeat it. So we can't forget that race exists, but it exists as a social concept. And it is one that, because it is a man-made concept, it is one that we can also recreate. It is also one that we can do away with if we so choose. That's basically the myth of race in the United States. It isn't a permanent thing. It isn't a scientifically proven categorization of humanity. It's purely social. And it is one that was used as a justification during colonization. It was used as a justification to subjugate people during slavery. And today it's a distraction from being able to help our fellow Americans really move forward in our lives and to bring back the social mobility that's really been lost. Yeah. Until then, this has been a video for Food for Thought, my blog, which can be found at organicthought.blogspot.com. Also, be sure to check out my poetry blog, thelackadaisicalfirefly.blogspot.com. See you soon.
Oh, it's just